So we stopped last time with the symmetric system of conservation laws, for which we found the entropy and entropy flux function. There, because of the existence of such a symmetry over here, this k and I were interchangeable. Usually, if you look at second order differentiation, uh, the order in which you differentiate your function can, um, can be interchanged. So the same, for that you are allowed to equate this rho f k j by dou ui to some other function, uh, which is rho square g j by dou u g dou u t. It is basically dou u g and dou g j by dou u t. So you're allowed to do such a kind of you're allowed to say that a function gj exists such that this equality holds. Similarly, this also can be written as something like dou by dou uk of dou gk by dou u. Right? So because your order of sorry, this one is I, because I and k are interchangeable in this equation, you are allowed to equate each of these to some other function which is differentiated twice with respect to uk and ui. So since that differentiation with respect to uk and ui are interchangeable, that is equivalent to saying that dou f in dou fij by dou uk, I and j are interchangeable. So that is why this thing ensures the existence of such a function gj that satisfies this property. So because of this, we were able to proceed with the entropy function and entropy flux function. So for any symmetric system of conservation laws wherein this equality holds, we have both entropy and entropy flux functions that exist. Now, for a general system of conservation law, do entropy functions exist? And when do we say that entropy functions exist? That is what we proceed further. So consider some general system of conservation laws that we talked about earlier. And for that system, your omega is u vector belongs to omega. It is omega is a subset of Rp, and R is your set of all real numbers. And just consider some function that is a convex function, a strictly convex function, which means that it's positive definite. Whereas a just convex function means that it's positive semi-definite. That is u double prime of u vector is positive semi-definite for a convex function, whereas it is positive definite for a strictly convex function. That is the only difference. Whereas I have told you what a positive definite matrix is last time, right? Your if you take any vector in Rp, any non-zero vector in Rp, if you do W transpose dot U double prime dot W, then that must be greater than or equal to 0 for a positive semi-definite matrix, whereas it must be just greater than 0 for a positive definite matrix. That's it. So that doesn't make any difference here, convexity or strictly convexity. Both are equivalent. Taking a strictly convex function doesn't necessarily make any difference, but taking a convex function is required. So that will we'll see why it is required probably when we go to vanishing viscosity method. So for now, let's just say that for any general system of conservation laws that we take, let U be some function from omega into R, which is strictly convex. Let's just say that there exists some function that is strictly convex. There can be many functions for a system of conservation law, because for a system of conservation law, you know what U vector will be from the classical solution. So you can just consider some function of U of U vector, which for which U double prime of U vector is positive definite. So such an U will be strictly convex. So there will exist some strictly convex function. There may or may not exist, but let's just say that there exists some strictly convex function for any general system of conservation law for which U vector is the classical solution. Now, the necessary and sufficient condition for U to be an entropy function for the system of conservation law is that these P cross E matrices, that is U double prime of U into Fj prime of U, must be symmetric. We saw what Fj prime of U will be last time. These Fj's are flux vectors from the system of conservation law. When we take derivative of the flux vectors, that becomes a matrix. And take dot product of that with U double prime of U. This also is a matrix, and this is symmetric, if you notice, because U is a scalar function and U double prime of U is this vector, this matrix. Here we have dou squared U by dou U1 squared, and here dou squared U by dou U1 dou U2, and in this place in the 2 1 position we have dou squared U by dou U2 dou U1. Since order of differentiation is interchangeable, these two are same. Similarly, everywhere this same thing happens, and hence this U double prime of U vector is going to be a symmetric matrix. However, we do not know whether U double prime of U into Fj prime of U will be symmetric or not. So, if there exists some function, some strictly convex function U, such that this happens, then we can say that U is an entropy function for your system of conservation law. And necessary and sufficient condition means, necessary means that this condition, if this condition is not true, then for sure your U is not an entropy function. Sufficient means that this condition alone is sufficient to say that U is an entropy function. Along with this, we do not need any more conditions to say that U is an entropy function. If this condition is true, then for sure U is an entropy function. That is what sufficient means. Whereas necessary condition means that if this condition is not true, then U is not an entropy function. Okay. It's like either ways it has to be true. If U is an entropy function, then this condition has to be true. Must be symmetric. If this is symmetric, then U must be an entropy function. Both must be true. That is what this theorem says. Both are true. Both ways, it's both of them coexist. Like if U is not an entropy function, then U double prime of Fj prime is not symmetric. Similarly, if U double prime of J prime is not symmetric, then U is not an entropy function. One is true, then the other is true. That is what this theorem says. Let's try to prove this, how this happens. So we have already stated that U is a strictly convex function. Because of that, this U double prime of U is positive definite. It's symmetric. Actually, it is symmetric. All the time u double prime of u is symmetric because order of differentiation is interchangeable. Uh, because of this strictly convex condition that they have put in, u double prime of u is positive definite as well. So next, let's just prove the first possibility. That is, if u is an entropy function, then u double prime fj prime of u is symmetric. Let's just try to prove that first. So for this, let's just start with the assumption that u is an entropy function. Because we have said that if u is an entropy function, then u double prime fj prime is symmetric. So let's just take u is an entropy function. If u is an entropy function, then we know last class we saw that u prime into fj prime equals fj prime. This is the flux vector of the system of conservation laws, and this f is entropy flux function. So this holds. Last time we saw it yesterday. So now differentiating this equation is exactly this one. So now differentiating this equation with respect to UL. So differentiating this right hand side, we get dou squared fj by dou ek dou ul, and then this by chain rule becomes this plus this, and we take one of those to the other side to get such an equation. Basically, this equation upon differentiation with respect to L becomes this equation. So if you notice on the left hand side, here we have a second order derivative, and in this indices k and L are interchangeable because order of differentiation is interchangeable. They commute. Next, if you look at this term here as well, this is the second order derivative, and here as well we have uk and ul. These can be interchanged. So both on the left hand side, k and L can be interchanged. So if this is true, then on the right hand side as well, k and L must be interchangeable. So which means we have k over here and L over here. So this is now equal to this because k and L are interchangeable. I have interchanged k and L over here. So these both are equal now. What does this mean? This means that this is u double prime of u and this is f prime of u. So if you multiply them both, you get u double prime of u into f prime of u. And if uk and ul are interchangeable, this matrix becomes symmetric. So you have started with the assumption that u is an entropy function, and then you prove that u double prime fj prime of u is symmetric. So if u is an entropy function, then this matrix is symmetric. We have proved one way. Now let's go to the other way, where if u double prime fj prime is symmetric, then u is an entropy function. So now assume that this equation this holds. We have stated that u double prime fj prime is symmetric. So let's just assume now that u double prime fj prime is symmetric, which means this equation is true. So now in this, let's just try just take this quantity, take do dou by dou ul for this quantity. So by chain rule, you will get two different quantities. Because this is dou by dou ul and summation is over I. You can take this derivative inside, and then we can do chain rule over this quantity. That is how you get these two terms. So now, if here in this right hand side, this is the second order derivative, and here k and L are interchangeable. Similarly, okay, not here. Here k and L are interchangeable because of the assumption 5 that we have taken. That is u double prime fj prime is symmetric, which means that this is true. So this quantity is same as this one. Summation is here. So this quantity is same as this quantity. So now this is also equal to this one because of the assumption that U double prime Fj prime is symmetric. So here as well K and L are interchangeable. So on the right hand side K and L are interchangeable, which means that on the left hand side too K and L must be interchangeable. So this has been written over here, and in this the same thing has been written with this K and L interchanged. So now they are both equal because we inferred that K and L are interchangeable from this equation. So now we have such an expression. So now if you look at this one carefully, this condition ensures the existence of a function fj such that this is true. Now if you notice this, if this is true, just try to take or do dou by dou ul for this. That actually becomes this one, and this is also equal to this one because in the denominator we have dou ul dou uk. Here we have dou uk dou ul. These both are equal, and this is equal to this one. So we know that these both are equal, and from this equation we know that these both are equal. So this equality ensures the existence of some function fij such that this relation holds. That is without this, I'll remove this now. So this equality actually ensures the existence of some function fj such that this equality holds. So now here we have found some fj. If you notice, this is our entropy flux. Fj is our entropy flux function, and this is the derivative of entropy flux function with respect to u. So we started with an assumption that u double prime fj prime is symmetric, and we have just found out the derivative of entropy flux function with respect to u. That is, we have assured the existence of some entropy flux function. So if entropy flux function exists for any strictly convex function u, then that function u is known as an entropy function. So last class we saw the definition of an entropy function. So we see if we start with an assumption that u double prime fj prime is symmetric, then there exists some entropy flux function corresponding to u, which is a strictly convex function. This thereby making u to be the entropy function. So here we started with an assumption that u double prime fj prime is symmetric, and we ended up proving that u is an entropy function. So we proved both ways. And if u is an entropy function, then u double prime fj prime is symmetric, and if u double prime fj prime is symmetric, then u is an entropy function. So a necessary and sufficient condition for u to be an entropy function is that u double prime fj prime is symmetric. So this is the theorem. Any doubts here? Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So corollary is something like a statement that is inferred from some theorem, some useful statement that is inferred from some theorem. So corollary of this theorem is like this statement now turns out to be the corollary of our theorem that we proved, which is existence of a strictly convex entropy function u implies that your system of conservation laws is symmetrizable. That is, this to prove this, let's just multiply your system of conservation laws by u double prime of u vector. Your system of conservation laws was this one. So this can be split up into this. So to this, if we multiply u double prime, this becomes u double this. So to this system of conservation laws, we multiply u double prime of u. So multiplying u double prime of u with this, we get this term, and multiplying u double prime of u with this term, we get this one. So now, if you look at it, when u is an entropy function, this is symmetric. This matrix u double prime of u into fj prime of u is symmetric. Also, u double prime of u is symmetric because order of differentiation is interchangeable. So this is the second order derivative with just u. So this is also in symmetric. So now this equation has coefficient matrices that are symmetric. So which means that existence of some strictly convex entropy function implies that your system of conservation laws is symmetrizable. That is your symmetrized system of conservation laws. So this is just some nice corollary of your theorem. Next, so until now we have seen when entropy functions exist for a general system of conservation laws. That is, it exists when u double prime fj prime is symmetric. So now let's go into the gas dynamics equations. This is just as an example. So last time we saw how gas dynamics equation was some time back. Okay, we saw when gas dynamics equations, how gas dynamics equations serve as a system of conservation laws. Here we have conservation of mass, momentum, and energy. So in this case, if we equate this to, so now these three equations together form some system of conservation laws. And for that system, your conserved variable vector will be rho u1, rho u2, rho u3, rho u. Your flux vector again we'll have three flux vectors. So let me just call f1 vector of u vector the first flux vector, that is the one which you write with respect to dou by dou x. I'm writing that over here. So that will be rho u1. So this is your first flux vector, and the second one will be this one. And the third will again be something like this. Sorry, here we have u3. So can you recall this from your system, your inviscid gas dynamic system? This is a 3D inviscid gas dynamics equation, Euler's equation. The first one is the conservation of mass equation. These three are conservation of momentum equations, and the third one is from energy conservation. So you have this system of conservation laws. So for this system, is it possible to find an additional conservation law that we talked about? That is an entropy function, entropy conservation law. So we can actually find, we can have an entropy conservation law for this system, and we know that, we know what actually is our entropy here. So from the thermodynamic relations, we have thermodynamic specific entropy as this one. Then we have this, then in that case, minus rho s becomes our strictly convex entropy function, which is u. And your entropy flux function Fj will be minus rho Ujs for this system. So just that for this system, if you do some simplification, that is ds will become something like this, provided we consider a polytropic ideal gas, and because of this relation, you get something like this, and upon integration, you get this equation. So last time actually we considered some kind of variables involved, but we just said that rho is this rho, and rho u1 was q1, rho u2 was q2. So we just call them by different names, and rho e was this different symbols, because we did not want to have same kind of repetition. So these are the conserved variables, and then we call these conserved variables using some different symbols. So I've written this thing by considering the new symbols that we have got. So this is your entropy function now. This along u equals minus rho s is your entropy function for this system, and Fj equals minus rho Ujs is the entropy flux function. You can try to see whether this U and Fj satisfy the properties that we have talked about till now. That is, you can see if U double prime of U dot Fj prime of U is symmetric or not. You can also see if U prime of U vector dot Fj prime of U vector equals this Fj prime of U vector. Here all J runs from, and for these are for this 3D system, your C is 5. You can try for all these things, whether these properties hold. You can try this as an exercise. So any doubts here?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So until now, we have seen when the additional conservation law, which is the entropy conservation law, will exist for any system of conservation laws. So that will exist when u prime into small fj prime equals capital Fj prime. So if that equality holds, then there will exist some additional conservation law, which is the entropy conservation law. Then we saw when an entropy function can exist for a system, that is when we saw whether some function u can be an entropy function by using this thing, u double prime fj prime symmetry. So we have two conditions. That is, for a system to have an entropy conservation law, we require this condition. And for any u to be an entropy function, we require this condition to be true. So all these has been done with regard to classical solutions for a system of conservation law. Now, but we told that the motive of entropy is to identify the physically relevant solution among the weak solutions. So which means that weak solution is something that does not necessarily satisfy the CD, that is your system of conservation laws, but it only satisfies the weak form of conservation law. So now let's move on to something known as the vanishing viscosity method. In this, we'll see how entropy function helps us to identify the physically relevant solutions among the weak solutions. So with this regard, let's try to perturb your system of conservation laws. That is, here epsilon is a small number. That is, it's a small parameter, but it's a positive number. That is a positive small parameter. Initially, we started with such a system where we had this one. So this is our system of conservation laws. To this system of conservation law, let's just let's just perturb this system. That is, to this system we add some quantity minus epsilon into Laplacian of u vector. Now this is no more u vector, but we to just differentiate between these two systems. That is your original system of conservation law and this new system. We just put an epsilon as suffix to your u vector. For your original system of conservation law, this u vector is your conserved variable, whereas for this perturbed system, u vector epsilon is your conserved variable. So they are both equivalent except for this new addition. So first we start with such a perturbation of your system of conservation law. This delta is just the Laplacian, which is defined this way. It is summation j equals 1 to d rho squared by dou x j squared. So here again, for your original system, we had an initial condition of this form. For this system, here again we have a similar kind of initial condition, which is u epsilon vector of x vector comma 0 equals u naught epsilon vector of x vector. So, but we put another additional assumption that this u naught epsilon vector of x vector approaches u naught vector of x vector. That is, approaches the initial condition for the original system as epsilon goes to 0. That is, the initial condition for your new system of conservation law approaches the initial condition for the original system of your conservation law as epsilon goes to 0. So this the initial condition of new system approaches the initial condition of old system. Here this can be viewed as a viscosity term. So in the usual viscosity terms are usually second order terms. So here again your Laplacian is the second order derivative of u vector. So that we can just consider that as some viscosity term. So now this is your new system. 6 and 7 are the new system. That 6 is your new system of conservation laws, whereas 7 is your initial condition for the new system. So now let's just assume that they have sufficiently smooth solution, which means that any derivative up to any order derivatives of u vector epsilon exist and they are continuous. This is what is our assumption to start with. Any order derivatives of u vector epsilon exist in continuous. That's what this means. Assuming this, we just try to from the solution of this new system. That is, the solution of new system is u vector epsilon of x vector comma t. From this solution, we try to recover the solution for this old system, which is u vector of x vector comma t. So that is what we try to do now. In the process, we'll see how entropy helps us to identify the physically relevant solution. Actually, the motive is that we go through some process to justify that. So we have a theorem. We start with an assumption that the original system, that is your old system of conservation laws, admits some entropy function u with entropy fluxes Fj. If we say that your old system admits some entropy function u with entropy flux function, we are actually saying that for any u vector, for any classical solution of your original system of conservation law, u double prime of u vector dot fj prime of u vector is symmetric, and then we say that u prime of u vector. So these are the inherent assumptions when we say that one admits an entropy function with entropy fluxes. For any classical solution that you take for your original system, these conditions hold for the entropy function u. So now we have one assumption. Then let's put another assumption that u vector epsilon. There may not be just one solution, one classical solution to your system. So now we have this is now a sequence, that is let's say u vector epsilon of 1, epsilon 1, u vector epsilon 2. There are many solutions, and this is a notation used to identify such a sequence, okay, of solutions of your new system of conservation laws. Okay. Now this is a notation used to identify all the solutions of all the sufficiently smooth solutions of your new system, and we also state that these solutions u vector epsilon satisfy these conditions. That is, the norm of u vector epsilon is always less than or equal to some constant, and that constant is independent of epsilon. That is, for any value of epsilon that you take, that is, epsilon must be small, but you don't state how small it has to be. So for any value of epsilon that you take, this norm has to be independent. That is, u vector epsilon will be different for different values of epsilon. That is, for one, let's say epsilon equals 0.1. Then you have one system of conservation law. Let's say epsilon equals 0.2. Then you have a different system of conservation law. This is actually many systems of conservation laws identified with different epsilon. You just write a suffix epsilon, but this value over here can be anything that is greater than 0. So for each of the different values that you have, the system of conservation law will be different. So for each of them, you'll have different solutions, right? And for for this thing that you have taken, that is norm of mu vector epsilon that you have taken, should be less than or equal to some general constant. That is, this C must be actually greater than or equal to norm of u vector epsilon for all epsilons possible. For all possible epsilon, this C must be greater than or equal to norm of u epsilon. So that you start with this kind of assumption as well. Then again, this is the same thing that we told earlier, but this was just for the initial condition, but here this is for the whole solution for all x vector and b. That is, this is the solution for your new system of conservation laws, and this is the solution for old system of conservation laws. And we assume that u vector epsilon approaches u vector as epsilon goes to 0 almost everywhere. In you all know that u vector is a function of x vector comma t, and u vector epsilon is also a function of x vector comma t. So x vector is defined over Rd and t is defined over 0 comma infinity. So we have Rd plus 0 comma infinity. So this is our domain for u vector. So almost everywhere in this domain, we can also have, we just told that, okay, we can also have it this way because we omega is a subset of Rd because we told that u vector belongs to omega and omega is a subset of Rd plus 0 comma infinity last time. So similarly, let's just say that u vector epsilon also belongs to omega and this is a subset of Rd cross 0 comma infinity. So in omega, this your u vector epsilon approaches u as epsilon goes to everywhere, almost everywhere, not necessarily everywhere, but almost everywhere. Here is where you have the trick, because if you say that this goes to this one as epsilon goes to 0 everywhere, then you are talking about the classical solution. Whereas when you put this term almost everywhere, it's like integrals don't vary because of this condition. Because of because of the differences that you have at certain points, integrals don't vary because integral of some point is 0, whereas integral of some area is some measurable quantity, whereas integral of a line or a point is, okay, like generally if you have some function like this, this area will be your integral. However, if you have just one point and this side you have some other function and on this side you have some function. So now the integral of the whole thing will be in sum of the integrals of these two areas, area 1 plus area 2. This point that you have over here doesn't contribute to the integral, right? This line doesn't, this one doesn't contribute any. Only this area and this area contributes to the integral. This single line here does not contribute anything to the integral. So that is what the difference you have here. When you say almost everywhere, you actually say that almost in many regions, in most regions, your u vector approaches u. However, at certain points, u vector need not approach you, and that doesn't change your integral, which means that doesn't change the weak form of conservation law, but it alters the, okay. I'll give the notion, this notion to you in some time, quite some time after we go through this theorem. Then it will be more clear. So that is what almost everywhere actually means. We'll see further insight. We have further insight on this when we finish this theorem. So u vector is now if you have all these assumptions, that is for one you have an entropy function, and for this new system of conservation law you have a sequence of sufficiently smooth functions, smooth solutions that satisfy these two properties. Then your u vector is a weak solution of one. That is, this u vector is a weak solution of the old system of conservation law, and it satisfies the entropy condition. This is your entropy condition in the sense of distributions on RD equals 0, in the sense of distributions actually means this. That is, this is your this is a PD, right? Which has less than or equal to. But when you say that this equation is true in the sense of distributions, you actually don't say that this equation is true. You actually say that this equation is true. Okay, when you say that this PD is true in the sense of distribution, you are actually saying that this integral of some PD is true. It's not that this PD is true. Okay, that means like this is some test function phi belonging to some compact support. This means compactly supported functions on RD equals 0, infinity. I told you we have test functions defined as non-zero inside some region, whereas it is zero outside, on and outside that region, right? So this is a set of all such functions, and your phi belongs to that kind of function. So phi is also one such function. That is, it is non-zero in some region and zero on and outside that region. And also phi is greater than or equal to 0. It's non-zero inside some region, right? That non-zero value is positive. That's it. So for this, now for any such function phi, you have this to be satisfied. This is just your weak form of 9 is actually weak form of 8. We'll see how it is. First, okay, like now. So this equation multiplies 5. Now that will give you something like this, right? And then integrate this with respect to dx and dt. This action. Integrate this with respect to dx and dt. Then do integration by parts so that you get something like q of u vector dou phi by dou t. And write it clearly. So for this equation, you will have like RD, then 0 to infinity, u dou phi by dou t. Then you will have some initial condition, isn't it? Let's just neglect that. We'll have some initial condition. Let's just say that the initial condition is 0. Similarly, you have minus of you have summation over here. So now this 8 has become into some equation like this. So if you just remove this minus, this less than or equal to will become greater than or equal to, and you have this equation 9. So 9 is basically the weak form of 8. So when you say that 8 is satisfied in the sense of distribution, it actually means that only 9 is satisfied. It does not mean that 8 is satisfied. When you say in the sense of distributions, you actually don't say that that equation is satisfied. You're actually saying that the weak form of that equation is satisfied. So this is the theorem. This when for a system of conservation law, you have an entropy function and entropy flux function. And for the new system of conservation laws, if you have some smooth solutions that satisfy these conditions, then U vector is the weak solution of the old system, and it satisfies the entropy condition in the sense of distribution. That is, this U vector is a weak solution of 1, and it satisfies the weak form of entropy conservation law. It's actually entropy inequality here. Okay. Your weak solution actually satisfies the weak form of entropy inequality. If certain conditions, if these conditions are satisfied, then this is true. So we'll see how. So proof for that is given here. Now we said that one admits an entropy function. That is, your system of conservation laws admitted some entropy function. So that entropy function is U. Let's say that U is a C2 continuous function. That is, the second derivatives of U are continuous, because you will take second derivatives of U, right? U double prime of U. So we require U double prime of U to exist. And then, so we said that U is a C2 continuous entropy function. Then multiplying this, which one? This is your new system of conservation law, right? You multiply your new system of conservation law with U prime of U epsilon. Now, U is your entropy function. So that entropy function, you write that entropy function as a function of the solutions for the new system of conservation law. So you have U of U vector epsilon. So take derivative of that and then multiply that with the new system of conservation law itself. So that becomes something like this equation. So this, by the chain rule, you apply chain rule to this, you get this one. And then since U is an entropy function, this is true. It is U prime into F small fj prime equals capital Fj prime. And this into this one, that we have something over here. So this into this will become this one. So we are multiplying, doing this process, that is multiplying this new system with U prime of U epsilon, we get this equation. So now let's just consider this quantity is epsilon U prime of U vector epsilon into Laplacian of U vector epsilon. For this, consider this quantity epsilon Laplacian of entropy function. This is actually this one, epsilon into summation. Laplacian is this one, right? Dou squared by dou x j squared of U. Since j runs from 1 to d, you have this summation. In 2D, Laplacian is something like this, right? Dou squared by dou x1 squared of U plus dou squared by dou x2 squared of U. I've written the same thing over here for multi-dimensions. So now this has been expanded. That is dou by dou xj of dou U by dou xj. that again has been, since u is a function of u vector epsilon, I write dou u by dou xk as dou u by dou u vector epsilon into dou u vector epsilon by dou xk. Now, again, taking this inside, doing chain rule, you get two terms. Just a minute. So you have two terms over here, and then this term, when you take it inside, you do this again is a function of u vector epsilon, right? So you first different this one is equal to dou squared u by dou u vector epsilon squared into dou vector epsilon by dou xk. So I've written that over here, and this one has been just kept in the same way. So when you take something which is here, this is a vector. This is now a vector. So when you take it on the other side, you take a transpose of that. That is, you take this to the left side of a matrix, you take a transpose of that vector. So now it becomes something like this. If you look at this one, this is the same thing that we used for defining positive definiteness. We just said that for any vector w in non-zero w in Rp, you wanted w transpose dot u double prime dot w to be greater than or equal to 0 for positive definiteness of u double prime. And this ensured that u is strictly convex because we have greater than or equal to this. This means u double prime is positive definite and positive semi-definite, and u is convex for it to be greater than or equal to 0. And if we remove this equality, then it is positive definite and u is strictly convex. So we started with this assumption basically. So this is always greater than or equal to 0. Because this quantity is always greater than or equal to 0. And if you notice, this is the same as the one which you had in this equation. This is the same as this one. So now just writing this equation for this quantity, it is epsilon u prime into Laplacian of u vector equals epsilon into Laplacian of u minus that is epsilon into Laplacian of u minus this one, and this is greater than or equal to 0, which means that the quantity on the left side is less than or equal to the quantity on the right side, because this is always positive, and this is also this is a positive quantity. So if you subtract some positive quantity out of something, then the quantity which you had earlier is always greater than or equal to the new quantity that you will be obtaining, right? So this is the old quantity that you have, and if you subtract some positive quantity out of that, the new quantity that you obtain is always going to be less than or equal to the old quantity that you had. So which means this is always less than or equal to this one. So now if you go to the equation that we derived, that is we multiplied the new system with u prime and obtained this equation, right? So now that equation, that equality turns into an inequality. This is the equality that we had. Okay. Now we say that this is less than or equal to this one. So we just write it here and we get an inequality. So now this is our new inequality. So, like, can we finish this one, or is it taking time?
Oh, ma'am, we actually have a meeting now. We just told that we'll
Okay.
be coming by 11, 11.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Okay. So I'll stop it here. We'll proceed with this proof next class.
okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Any
Thank you, ma'am.
doubts
Thank
here?
you.
No, ma'am, not
No,
at all.
ma'am.
Okay.
Oh, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hmm.